What if Deku was in a UA support course, part 1? Now, somebody contacted me on Discord and said I can do some of your thumbnails, and I said sure. And that's the thumbnail on today's video. So shout out to Mega Crook, I believe. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it or not, but shout out to him. Make sure you guys all go subscribe to Lord Duck in the link in the description, as we need to get Lord Duck to 300 subscribers, or he will delete all our Minecraft worlds. Come on, guys, we got this. Now, getting into today's video. Isuku, from the time he was born up until the age of 4, always loved messing with things. If he got a toy, he'd always disassemble it to try and find out how it worked. Especially the case with things like the remote. It got so bad to the point where he was caught disassembling the microwave, which basically just caused Inko to buy Izuku broken appliances that were people selling them for dirt cheap, just so Izuku can try and tinker with them. As you guys can see, from a young age, Izuku loved messing with things. And by the time he was 4, he basically just wanted to get a quirk that could help him mess with things. And he basically did. Now, he kind of got a quirk that is a minor strength quirk, basically, so he can break things a lot easier. That's pretty much. He got a minor strength quirk and a intelligence boosting quirk, as Isuku would then basically every day ask his mom if they can drive to the beach, which, if you guys know, is completely filled with trash. From there, Izuku would salvage parts, trying to build something, as his main goal in life was to become a support person that buys or basically sells and makes parts that can help heroes do their job. So Izuku, from the age of 4, would continue tinkering on everything. He'd complete his classwork and then just start making an invention. As his classmates wouldn't bully him, they'd just see if they ever became heroes, they gotta be good friends with him so he can hook them up with good gadgets. Now, Izuku would end up being good friends with Bakugo, as Bakugo would actually be a lot nicer. Now, Bakugo, knowing Izuku wants to go to UA and get into the support course, wouldn't know Izuku, being very smart, would probably be able to make him something that will make him very strong. So Bakugo would basically just listen to Deku or Izuku if Izuku told him to be nicer to others. Now, when Izuku was 10, he'd start a project. This project would be Bakugo's gauntlets. And when Bakugo's birthday came around, Izuku would gift Bakugo's gauntlets to him and say that it was only basically a prototype and that it may malfunction. But how it works is that Bakugo's sweat will drain into basically this grenade gauntlet type thing, and once he pulls the pin, a massive explosion will come out of it. Now, one day Bakugo would decide to work out, and he would test this gauntlet. He'd point it towards a tree as he'd pull the pin, and a massive explosion would come right at the tree and knock it down. Both Bakugo's parents would rush outside and see Bakugo standing next to a toppled over tree. Now, Mitsuki would slap Bakugo right on the head with her fist and say, "What the hell was that, brat?" As Bakugo would then explain that the thing Izuku gave him for his birthday, he tested it out and it was able to destroy that tree. Now, from there, Mitsuki would contact Inko, saying how strong Izuku's gadgets have become. Now, 10 or 5 more years pass as we cut to basically Izuku in class with the teacher basically throwing up all their test papers or their application papers and saying, "I know you all want to be heroes. And it looks like 2 people from our class has decided to go to UA. Bakugo Katsuki and Suku Midoriya." As basically the class would just think, "Oh yeah, they're both gonna make it. Suku's insanely smart, so of course he's gonna make it to the support course. And Bakugo just wants to become a hero. These explosions gonna be pretty easy for him." As Izuku decides to walk home, and he ends up meeting the sludge villain. From there, Izuku would basically just dodge all of his attacks and say, this has an idea for me. As Izuku gets out some type of electric net that he invented, as he'd throw it at the sludge villain, as it instantly go around the sludge villain and electrocute him. Seeing as the sludge villain is pretty much liquid, electricity would be highly effective against him, as the sludge villain would start to basically just get electrocuted, and then it'd basically topple over into the sludge being thrown around this tunnel. Izuku would then throw out this cube that he invented, as the cube would then basically suck up all the sludge villain and trap him in this cube-type prison, as the sludge villain would try sloshing around to get out to no avail. From there, Izuku would hear the sewer drain bust open as he'd look over to see All Might pop out as he'd say, "Hello, youngster. May I please ask, have you seen a sludge villain around here?" As Izuku then lifts up this cube-type prison as All Might says, "Now may I ask, is this your cork?" As Izuku then shakes his head and says that this is an invention he made and that he wants to basically get into the UA support course. From here, All Might would see Izuku basically being a very intelligent person, as All Might would pick up the sludge villain and ask Izuku to come with him to the police station. From there, All Might would drop the sludge villain off and then would go to the beach where most of the parts have already been salvaged by Izuku. From there, All Might would then ask Izuku if he thinks he could try to make some type of thing that could heal his wound, as All Might would lift up his chest, revealing his wound around his heart. As Izuku would look at it and think, be hard, but maybe if you try to make something mechanical that could basically artificially make it easier for you, that could possibly work. As Izuku from there would start to work on something that could basically help All Might. And over the next 10 months, he'd work on this, with All Might saying that he'll give him a recommendation if he does. Now, Izuku would end up coming up with like this metal exoskeleton, as Izuku would then suggest that they will need to go to UA so Recovery Girl can perform surgery to implant like this half-looking skeleton thing that would try basically to artificially help All Might. From there, they'd go to Recovery Girl's office, who was hesitant to do it at first, but would agree. From there, they would perform surgery, as All Might would then have the skeleton implanted in him, basically reinforcing his bones, making him even stronger. All Might would then lift up and start punching around without poofing into Small Might, as he'd thank Izuku, as he said he'd try what he can to get him a recommendation into the school. Izuku, happy, would go home, as he'd tell his mother what he just did. He helped All Might, and that All Might might give him a recommendation into UA. Now, Inko would congratulate Izuku on this task, as Izuku would then go to bed, wondering if he will get into UA, as his inventions are pretty good. Now, from there, he would end up hearing a knock on the door the next morning, as he'd go and open it to see All Might. He'd tell his mom to make tea, as All Might would sit down, as he would start to explain what's going to happen. He tells Izuku that he will make it through the support course exam, but they still need to test his intelligence, as All Might would give Izuku a paper and say, "Just so we know we can give you a full recommendation, please take this paper." As Izuku would then say, "Alright," as Izuku would start to do the test and would finish a test that was meant to take 3 hours, Izuku would do in 5 minutes. Now from there, All Might would then say that Izuku has the heart of a hero, and even if Izuku wants to become or go to the support course, he can still be a part of the hero course as well. And Now a quick ad break. Now that that's done, let's get right back into this what if. Now, Isuku would ask All Might what he means that he can still be in the hero course, as All Might would then say Isuku is smart enough to be able to balance the support course's work along with the hero course's work. As Isuku, basically, All Might said, since you finished it in under 30 minutes, Nezu said if you finished it in under 30 minutes, you could be able to balance out both the work. So as long as you easily finish Class 1A's work, you can swap over to the support courses class and do that work as well while the other classes are doing their work. As Izuku would say, alright, All Might, now what else did you have to say? As All Might would then say that he deems Izuku worthy of his quirk, one for all, as All Might would pluck a hair from his head as he'd give it to Izuku, who would just look at it and say, okay, and eat it, as he would then be granted the one for all quirk, as Izuku would thank All Might and go to sleep. Now, in his dream, he'd basically just be calculating how much percentage of one for all he could use. Now, he knows he has a minor strength quirk, so maybe the minor strength quirk might fuse with one for all, allowing Izuku to have an even greater strength. So I'd say Izuku, with his minor strength quirk, could probably use around 20% of one for all. Keep in mind, Izuku technically was training for many years, lifting up heavy pieces of metal to work on. So that's basically training for Izuku. Now, after all the UA exams passed, the first day of UA ends up happening. Now, Izuku would put his UA uniform on and walk into the class, as you would then see everyone that already arrived as he'd sit down. From there, Bakugo would sit down as he'd turn around and ask Izuku why he's not in the support course. Izuku would say that he was contacted by Principal Nezu and given a test, and that test, basically, if he finished it in under 30 minutes, he could balance out both classes. So, yeah, as Bakugo says, wait, you mean the test that we took at the entrance exam? That took me 3 hours! As Izuku said, it only took me 5 minutes. As Bakugo would say, geez, I guess that's just a gap of how smart you are compared to me. Now, from there, Aizawa would basically tell everybody what they will be doing in that class as they all go down putting their PE uniforms on, and they would start the quirk test. Now, Izuku, being insanely smart, would already have figured out full cow and would have it to 20%. He'd go full cow after being tossed the ball by Aizawa, saying that he was recommended and had all this hype around him by Nezu and All Might, so why doesn't he try to throw this ball? As Izuku just says, alright, as he winds back his fist and chucks the ball as far as he possibly can. As Aizawa just looks on in shock as he sees this ball fly away. As Izuku just says, is that far enough? As Aizawa looks down at his phone as it says 1,500 meters. As Aizawa just nods his head. From there, Izuku would get first in most of the test, as Izuku would then have the most points and would be said to basically be in first place, as Aizawa would then say that the expelling thing was a joke and that nobody would be expelled, as everyone sighs relief as they end up walking away. Now, from there, Izuku would then end up going to the support course and start doing support course classes, as he would then basically show how how smart he was, easily doing all of the things the support course was trying to teach them, showing that Izuku was very advanced in his knowledge. Now, Izuku would end up catching the eye of Mei Hatsume, who would then see Izuku as some sort of rival in the support course classes. So Izuku would continue to basically shine and be the star student, with Mei Hatsume always coming in a second. But she would basically just push herself to basically try to get farther. Then Izuku would basically just hop back and forth from classes to classes, as we then would see the support course basically having a test, their quarter of the year test, as they're tasked with making something that could possibly easily catch a villain. Now, a teacher is going to be posing as a villain, and let's just say it's going to be Midnight, as Izuku, already having invented his basically electric glass cube prison, which I'm gonna just call Cube Prison, would basically get out this miniature type cube, as he'd seen Hurry running like across a field, as Izuku would throw Cube Prison as it start to basically just grow in size, and it just go right around Nemori and trap her in the cube. As Izuku would then basically watch the rest of his class do many things. Many people may be doing something like a net gun or something not as advanced as Izuku. Mei Hatsume would basically get second in this test, like always, with something basically like Izuku's Cube Prison, just not as strong. Now, from there, Izuku would then have the opportunity to sell his Cube Prison type thing to basically a bunch of investors. Now, from there, Izuku would sell 25% stake in his business to investors that will give him money to manufacture these and then sell them at around, let's say, $100 per cube, which is probably not a lot considering how much heroes probably are making. Now, Izuku would then we cut to Izuku in the UA classroom, as we see Izuku basically just being congratulated by all his classmates after them hearing how Izuku's invention was able to get picked up by basically investors. Now, Izuku would then say, "It's a very good invention that can easily catch a villain, so we should probably all learn how to use it." As Aizawa would think for a moment and then say, "Yes, it's a very good idea." And that's where I'm going to leave it off, guys. I hope you guys all enjoyed today's video. Make sure you guys go subscribe to Lord Duck, get them up to 300 subscribers, and also shout out to Mega Crook, I believe, as they are the person that designed this thumbnail. I thank you all for watching once again, and goodbye.